The rain drizzled gently outside the hospital window, composing a quiet, melancholic tune that mirrored the loneliness within Claire. A 28-year-old nurse with gentle eyes hiding deep wounds. Orphaned by a car accident at 23 and betrayed by her fiancé not long after, Claire lived a quiet life, pouring her heart into nursing. That night, though her shift had ended, she stayed behind to care for Mr. Walter, 85 years old, alone, with no visitors. Walter had once been a strong man, but now he seemed small beneath the white hospital blanket. He refused to eat or speak. Yet Claire did not leave. She sat beside him, gently talked, fed him spoonfuls of soup, and softly sang an old French lullaby her mother used to hum. In the dim light, she didn't see a patient. She saw a human being in need of comfort. She didn't know that the frail man was a widowed millionaire, and that her quiet presence, full of love, would forever alter both their fates. The next morning, as usual, Claire remained by Walter's side. He had begun eating, sleeping better, and his once cold gaze now held a flicker of warmth. But outside the hospital room, someone was quietly watching. Andrew Whitmore, Walter's only son, 34, and CEO of a renowned tech corporation, had returned after years of estrangement. He came not out of love, but duty. The bond with his father had long fractured under pressure, arguments, and silence since his mother passed away. Then one day, he witnessed Claire sitting by his father, holding his hand and humming a soft lullaby, a gesture Andrew himself had never offered. Something in him stirred. It wasn't medicine or machines that softened Walter. It was Claire. And through her, Andrew too began to feel something he hadn't in years, like a son again. He returned to the hospital more often. His official reason was to monitor his father's recovery, but deep down, it was Claire who pulled him back. She didn't know who he was. She didn't care about money or titles. She simply lived and gave with all her heart. From one night shift, Claire unknowingly became the bridge between a closed-off father, a distant son, and a bond long thought broken. Andrew, a man who lived among numbers, deals, and high-rises, found himself returning to the hospital not out of obligation, but because of Claire. Each time he entered the room, he saw his once hardened father softened by the quiet tenderness of a nurse who adjusted pillows, helped him drink, or simply held his hand in silence. These gestures closed the emotional gap Andrew had failed to bridge his entire life. Claire never asked about Andrew's status. When they first spoke by the vending machine, she only asked gently, "Are you family to Mr. Whitmore?" Learning he was Walter's son, she just smiled and replied, "Family is complicated, but he's lucky to have you." Her openness, her lack of judgment, disarmed him. Claire wasn't just healing his father. She was quietly mending parts of Andrew's soul he believed were broken forever. One night, Claire overheard two nurses whispering, "Did you know Mr. Walter is Walter Whitmore, founder of Whitmore Technologies? And that man visiting him lately, that's Andrew Whitmore, the real CEO." Her heart skipped a beat. Andrew, the man who waited for her after shifts, brought her coffee, asked about her day, was the heir to a vast empire. In an instant, their quiet walks and casual talks felt like glimpses from two separate worlds. That evening, as she exited the hospital, she found him waiting. "I know who you are," Claire said softly. Andrew nodded, without excuse. "I didn't want you to see me differently," he admitted. "Then why did you keep coming back?" she asked. "Because of you," he said. "You made my father feel human again, and you made me realize I needed to feel that too." For the first time, Claire saw not a CEO, not a billionaire, but a man, vulnerable and sincere. And it was this honesty, not his status, that stirred something in her heart. Their conversations deepened. One evening, Andrew invited her to dinner, not at a luxury venue, but a quiet bistro with candlelight and soft jazz. There, surrounded by warmth and humility, Andrew spoke of his childhood, his poetic mother, the silence after her passing, and the pain he buried in success. "I was trained to calculate risk, predict outcomes. But you make no sense to any equation," he said with a tender gaze. "You heal without asking anything in return. You made my father feel safe, and me feel something again. Claire shed quiet tears, not from sorrow but from recognition. Someone finally saw her beyond her scrubs, beyond duty, as a woman learning how to love again. Late one night, Andrew returned to the hospital and paused outside his father's room. Inside, Claire's soft voice drifted through the door. Your son, she whispered to Walter, just needs to hear that he matters. Not for his success, just because he's your son. Walter, his voice fragile, admitted, I never told him. I thought he knew. Claire squeezed his hand. It's never too late. Outside, Andrew stood still, tears running down his face. Words he had longed for all his life finally came. Not through speeches, but through a nurse who dared to stay. Walter passed peacefully, with Claire by his side, humming the lullaby one last time. She closed his eyes, kissed his forehead, and whispered goodbye. At the funeral, Claire stood in the back, her presence quiet but full. She later told Andrew she planned to leave, conflicted by emotions that blurred the lines of professionalism. But Andrew stopped her. If you go, you'll take the only part of my father that ever truly made sense to me. Claire broke down. I'm not afraid of loving the wrong person anymore. I'm afraid of losing the right one. You're not losing anything, Andrew said. You're finding it. A year passed. In the sunlit garden of the Walter Foundation, a care center for the elderly they built in Walter's honor, Claire stood beneath blooming trees, watching forgotten seniors laugh and dance. When the event ended, Andrew led her to a quiet spot Walter once loved. There he gave her a small wooden box. Inside, a velvet ring box and a letter, written in Walter's shaky handwriting. If my son loves this girl, it means he has learned to be a man. Give her this ring, not as my promise, but as my blessing. Andrew knelt, hands trembling. I don't know the perfect timing, but if I can begin again, let it be with you. Claire, eyes brimming, nodded. Yes, 1,000 times. Yes. In the garden where grief once lingered, love finally bloomed. Quiet, real, and lasting. Because sometimes healing begins with a song, a touch, and someone brave enough to stay.